thank you everyone for being here. My name is Art with No Code Devs. We also have Paul on the line with No Code Devs. And today we are excited to have Harris Reynolds to talk about product market fit, along with many other things. Just a quick introduction of Harris. I'll let him do his own introduction, but he was one of the founding members and former CTO of Shipt, which was a same-day delivery service from various retailers. In 2017, Target Corporation acquired Shipt for like $600 million or something like that, and operates as an independent subsidiary now. Harris is also the former CTO of Landing, which is a company that reinvents renting with flexible lease apartments for people that want to live on their own terms. Today, I think we'll talk about Harris's experiences at Shipt, some crowdsourcing, finding product market fit, and so much more. All this is so relevant, especially for makers and builders in the no-code community that are building products, but are unable to sort of crack the egg in terms of finding product market fit. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Harris. I just want to say again that this is being recorded. We will send out the recording afterwards, as well as the slides if we can, so that everybody has access to them. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Harris.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Art. Hey, Art, real quick, can you allow my video to pop up?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It'd be kind of cool if people could kind of see my face while I'm talking, if that's possible. I don't even know.
Oh yeah, it's totally possible. I'm just going to go ahead and make you the host, and then you should be able to turn on your video.
All right, cool. And I'm just admitting people if they're coming in.
Yeah, and I'll turn off the waiting room too as well, as soon as you get started.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, listen, what up, No Code Devs Nation? Super excited to be with you all today and to talk about product market fit and what that even means. And before we even jump into this slide deck and all this stuff, I just want to tell everyone, listen, if you've got questions, feel free to blast them out there. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end, but if you have some question like in the middle, feel welcome to throw that out there. I do have a little trouble seeing chats while oh, actually, I think I might be able to see it. Okay, cool. I can see chats now while I'm doing the video. So anyways, I would love to have some feedback if you have some questions while we're going. And if not, then we'll have some time at the end as well. So I want to start with telling a quick story about that's from Steve Jobs. I think this is a great story. But Steve Jobs in 1994 was working at a company called Next Computer, and he walks into the break room and he starts making a bagel, and he asks 2 or 3 guys in the break room. He says, "Who's the most powerful person in the world?" Okay. And one of the guys is like thinking, like trying to think fast, like, who the most powerful person in the world might be. And he says, Nelson Mandela. And Steve Jobs was like, no, it's not him. He said, the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. And I am going to be the best storyteller in the world. And I wanted to start with this story by Steve Jobs, because when you guys are thinking about starting a business, or you're thinking about even something like product market fit, which is a very it's going to be a little bit technical when we start to think about that idea. The thing I want you guys to think about is, what's your story? Like, what is your story? Like, why am I doing this? And a big part of finding product market fit is getting really good at telling your story. So I think everyone should become a storyteller, and I like that story from Steve Jobs. That was back in 1994, almost 30 years ago. So much has happened since then, especially for Apple and Steve Jobs. But anyways, I think that's a cool thing. A big part, I think, of being successful in business is figuring out how to tell your story. So first question on the table is, what is product market fit? What does that even mean? So this is a definition by Mark Andreessen, super successful entrepreneur, but also a very successful investor. So he says product market fit means finding means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. So quick question for you guys. What is a good market? Um, I think there's a lot of ways we can answer that question. When I ask these questions, if you want to bang an answer into the chat, that's fine. And if you want to just kind of think about it, that'd be good. But I think about a good market. First of all, it's a market that's sufficiently large. If there's only 2 people that want your product, it may not be the best market, but it's sufficiently large. Okay, yeah, someone's saying large TAM. TAM is total addressable market. So big market. Ideally, the market is also growing. So take Art with No Code Devs. He started No Code Devs almost 2 years ago, and this no code space has been it's pretty good size, but it's also growing. It's also getting bigger each year. So yeah, here's another one. One with a lot of unmet needs and money was another comment in the chat thread. Let me comment on that real quick. So big market, growing market. And then the last thing I'll say about a good market that relates to this comment about lots of unmet needs is one that's where there's still some space, where there's still some room. As an example, the CRM market is super big, it's massive, but it's also super saturated. I wouldn't say there's tons of unmet needs in a market like CRM. So big market, growing market, and hopefully not saturated. And so product market fit is, hey, I have a product that meets this market. Now, first off, let me tell you this. I intentionally made this slide black and white because I think it's missing kind of one thing, and certainly Mark Andreessen wasn't trying to give an exhaustive description here. But the one thing that I think it's missing is a big part of how we get to this is getting really good at telling our story and about telling other people about what we're doing and trying to get people excited about it. So product market fit technically is just, big market, great market with a product that serves the market. But I think another big key piece of it is telling people about it and getting people to use it, to try it, and to eventually hopefully become customers. So I'm wearing a Shipt t-shirt. This is a super old, this was like one of the very first ones. I don't know if you guys have heard of Shipt. Has anyone heard of Shipt, by the way, or used it at all? I'd be kind of curious about that. It's not like Uber in terms of success, but it certainly did have some pretty good success. So I want to talk about my story at Shipt for a little bit. Okay, my story at Shipt. I think this could be useful for you guys to think about, or just kind of hear part of the story. So the first thing I want to do is tell you about 2 or 3 ideas that did not work. Okay, and this is a big part of startups and starting a business. Is not every. I have never heard of one entrepreneur that literally everything he did always worked. Okay, every single successful entrepreneur will tell you about their failure. So the first Shipt idea, we thought there was a problem in the marketplace of people just want their stuff faster. Okay, you order stuff from Amazon, you expect to get it fast, but there's all these other places you get stuff from, and it's not fast. So we created a white label delivery platform, basically. In my opinion, we wasted about 500 grand in 6 months on this because we didn't really validate the idea. And I'm going to talk about that more a little bit later. But we created this white label delivery solution, and guess what? Almost no one came. Art had a tweet last week one time that said something like, if you build it, will they come? Which I thought that was a classic. It's from the Field of Dreams movie. If you build it, they will come. That's not always true. Sometimes we should question that. So we had super low adoption on this first thing. Now, first off, let me tell you, I think the idea was actually good. Look at Postmates. Postmates has been very successful, and this is basically what they did. But we were in a middle market America. We were in Birmingham and trying to hit middle market cities, and it did not work for us. That was Shipt idea number 1, and it totally bombed. One time, let me tell you a funny story about this real quick. One time, because we were getting so few people to use the platform, the founder said, okay, let's just, if someone will sign up on our thing, let's deliver to them a free dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. So we did that idea and everyone signed up to get free Krispy Kreme donuts, but we knew our product still wasn't very good because yes, we could get people to sign up for free Krispy Kreme donuts, but they just wanted free donuts. They didn't really want our problem or our solution. So Shipt idea number one. Shipt idea number two is people want meals delivered. Guys, first off, this was DoorDash. This was DoorDash, and we were doing this in late 2014. So our timing was still okay here, but our idea was people want, first off, Bill Smith, who was the founder of Shipt, he was out of town one week, he had some commitments, and I was just there. And listen, guys, one of my skills is I go execute, okay? I just go knock out ideas. So he was gone for a week and I was like, I'm gonna build a meal delivery platform. So I built this meal delivery platform. We had some infrastructure already, but I shipped it that week and he came back, he's like, hey, what you been doing? I was like, well, we're doing meal delivery now. He was like, awesome, let's try it. So we started doing this and guess what? No one really wanted it. Now our solution was clunky and very limited. We didn't really try to build DoorDash. If we'd have tried harder at that, it could have certainly been something. I do think people really, meal delivery is huge, just massive, and COVID made it even larger. But it didn't work terribly well for us. And so a couple more quick slides. First off, this is how it looks starting a company a lot of times and starting your idea. It's not all candy and nuts. It's not all smooth sailing. It's not like you're driving a Ferrari all the time. It's just everything is smooth. You know, it's going to look ugly sometimes. And this is how a couple of our first ideas at Shipt looked. Here's what I'll say about that. Failure is part of the process. Okay, I kind of alluded to that earlier. It's part of the process, and the big key is to just learn. Like, what are we learning? What are we learning about what the market wants? What are we learning about ourselves in terms of how we respond to what the market wants? The first couple of days, especially the first one, the white label delivery platform, we didn't really validate it well. That was part of why it wasn't super successful. So failure is part of the process. That's okay. John Maxwell has a book about this. I don't know if y'all have heard of John Maxwell, but he's got a book entitled like, you know, something about how you're either successful or you learn. And that there's a lot that we can learn from our failures. So if you fail, make sure that you do a post-mortem and think about, why did we fail? Was the market not great? Was our execution not great? Was our storytelling not great? Did we not get out and tell people enough? Lots of things you can learn when you struggle. And honestly, I think that's one reason why seminars and webinars and events like this are helpful, is the more you hear about things that don't work, you can avoid those things. And honestly, that's a big thing I'm trying to do with this webinar, is help you think about how to take steps that will actually work. And if they don't work, you learn that as quickly as possible. And there's another big idea in early stage startups, which is, if you're going to fail, it's much better to fail as fast as possible so that you can move on. And thankfully, I think we were able to do that at Shipt. So the third idea at Shipt, this is what actually worked, is grocery shopping takes a lot of time. And time is extremely valuable. Your time, like, everyone gets the same amount, but you can't get it back once it's gone. So everyone's time is valuable, and grocery shopping is time consuming. We built a grocery delivery platform, and hey, guess what? People actually wanted this. They wanted it in Birmingham, and we wanted to build a large company, but it worked in Birmingham, and we knew, man, if it works here, there's a lot of cities where this is going to work. Let me talk just a quick bit about this last idea that actually worked. So first off, we didn't know exactly what our idea was. We were trying to think of problems in the delivery space, okay? But we didn't have this grocery delivery product. And so, so we decided, hey, let's validate this idea. The first idea, the founder spent 500 grand paying one of these expensive development shops to build something. and no one wanted it. He told me later, it's like, that was a massive waste of money. So here's a question for you guys to think about and I'll tell you what we did here at Shipt, but how do you validate an idea as early as possible? How do you validate an idea? And when I say validate, first off, here's another interesting question. What is the best sign that someone actually wants your product? To me, the best sign, let me get something in my pocket here real quick. Okay, we're getting some great answers here. The best sign that someone wants your product is they get one of these out and they put it into your website. Okay, they get out their credit card and they give you money. And so we're getting some, I know there's a lot of smart people on this call, and some of the stuff, maybe you already know, and that's great. We're excited to have everyone here. But when we validated grocery delivery, we said we're going to get 1,000 people to give us $50. We're going to get 1,000 people to give us $50. If we do that, we know that the size of this business and the space in this market is sufficient for us to put a lot of development and a lot of effort into. So that's what we did. We used one of these crowdsourcing platforms. I don't think that crowdsourcing platform even exists anymore. I can't even remember the name of it, but there were a few of these, especially like five or six, 7 years ago. But we got 1,000 people to give us money, and that let us know, hey, we have something here. And the response on this was way bigger than the response on the first couple of ideas. So we validated it, and then we built it, and the company grew tremendously for 2 or 3 years, and then Target bought it for $500 million. Here's an interesting thing I'll say about the acquisition. Our very first product, white label delivery, we actually had a little solution where you could get stuff delivered from Target. Okay. The user experience was awful. You had to go to the Target website, and you had to come to our website, input like the order number just to get something delivered from Target. That was in 2014 when we did that. I think it was in 2017, Bill calls me, and I had left Shipt. I'm not with Shipt anymore, but Bill, the founder, calls me. He's like, Harris, we're selling Shipt. And I was like, that's a great idea. But he told me, he's like, we've come full circle. We started with this clunky product to deliver stuff from Target, and now Target is buying us. And it was a big win, especially for a market like Birmingham that's not Silicon Valley, not New York or one of these big markets. It was a good deal. So anyways, the last thing I'm going to say about this is, I think it was a good decision to sell it, but how much are these grocery delivery, we don't even have to talk about Shipt, but how much are these delivery platforms worth today? Like DoorDash, ridiculous valuation. Instacart, who's the biggest player in grocery delivery, massive valuation. If we'd have held on to Shipt, it would be worth $15 billion right now. But here's the last thing I want to say about all this. Make the best decision you can at the time. At the time, that was an awesome decision to sell Shipt. And don't worry about regrets. Like, don't worry about regrets. Do your best. Make your best decisions at the time, and then don't live in regret. That's an important thing about just being healthy and being your best self in business. So, all right, cool. Let's move on. I want to start to talk about some more really practical things about product market fit. Okay, here's a simple process for how you get product market fit. I'm going to give credit to Paul Graham, who's the guy who started Y Combinator, for this. It's so simple. How do you do this? You talk to users, you use their feedback to build the product, and you just keep repeating that process. Now, I know this is a very simplified process, but talk to users, build product, and then repeat. Now, one thing that I think most people find is they're good at one or the other of these first things, but they're not always good at both of these things. So the thing I would tell you about that is whichever one you're least good at, you need to work much harder at doing that. For me, I'm least good at talking to users. I'm an engineer by trade. I build things. Building products is easy for me. So for me, I need to find ways to spend more time talking to users. But wherever you might skew on that, make sure that you're really intentional about doing the other thing. And listen, if you happen to be one of those people that's totally awesome at both of those things, that's awesome. That's a blessing. Enjoy it, and just you're probably crushing it. You may not even need this talk, but all right, cool. So talk to users. First off, let me say one thing about talking to users. I'm having trouble going forward. Okay. So one thing that always kind of bugged me sometimes when Paul Graham or someone else would say talk to users is sometimes it's kind of like it's hard to talk to users. Honestly, we live in a culture now where people don't even talk to each other that much. We don't want to talk to people. We want to, just be able to do our thing in our little world. So I want to encourage you, like this idea of like, how do you talk to people? How do you talk to users? I can't overstate how critical this is. When I was getting to know Art, we met last year just through, I think I found him just through Twitter, but we got on the phone a few times and actually talked. And I think there was a lot of value in that. So one of the biggest questions I think people have about this simple process is, how do I talk to users? And what they're really asking a lot of times is, where do I find users to talk to? So there's a lot of places today where you can find people to talk to. And that's what this slide is intended to communicate. Does someone have something to say?
Yeah, hey, this is Art. I just want to, if I can interrupt you for 1 second, share
go for it.
Tiny little story about this. I was listening to the How I Built This podcast with Guy Raz, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard it, but it's a really good podcast. He interviews founders, and one of the most recent episodes, he had Brian Anderson on, who is one of the founders, or the founder of Coinbase, which is, a cryptocurrency company that's since gone public. And, one of the really interesting takeaways from that podcast is that, Brian Anderson for the longest time built this product that no one really wanted. It was basically a wallet to store your cryptocurrency, but there was no way to buy or sell, within that app Coinbase. And he went through Y Combinator, and he really did not figure that out until we started talking to users. And he literally just reached out to people that signed up for Coinbase at the time before it had a buy button. He's like, hey, I noticed you signed up for Coinbase, but you never really used a product. Can you tell me why? And they're like, yeah, there's no buy button. I can't buy Bitcoin. It's really hard to buy Bitcoin. So he made it really easy for people to buy Bitcoin. Fast forward, a few years, he's a billionaire. The company's gone public, and really it was just a product market fit problem. So just another little story just to show you how critical it is to get product market fit.
I love it. I love it, Art. That's a great little story. Coinbase is totally crushing it. Art, throw in the chat for everybody the podcast that you listened to, where that guy was talking, the Brian Anderson guy.
Will do, for sure.
I think it's great. I love it. So let me talk about these channels a little bit, and I'll even tie that into Art's story that he just told us. So first off, social media is like massive these days. Twitter is big, Instagram is big. And LinkedIn is big. If you want to talk to users, you're going to talk to people, start blasting some stuff out to social media, and don't let what's the classic phrase? I always say this a little bit wrong, but don't let great be the enemy of good, or good be the enemy of great. Someone tell me like exactly how to say that, but the point is don't wait for your post to be perfect to start talking to people. Just start talking to people. Start telling them about your idea, start telling them about the problem you want to solve, start telling them about the solution, and do that on social media. You can also do it on community sites. Hacker News is one. I've got Indie Hackers here. I think Indie Hackers is a great site to try to, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Thank you. Thank you for that. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good. It's critical in startups. It's much better to just get your idea out there before it's perfect. than to try to wait till it's perfect. And same thing with your messaging and your storytelling. Don't feel like it's got to be perfect just to start talking about it. Anyways, back to community sites. I think Indie Hackers is a great site where there's a lot of community. There's a lot of people talking, and you can tell people about your ideas. I would say partners is a good thing to work on, and you can get these just by trying to build relationships. You know, Art and I have talked several times over the past couple of years. You know, we've never met in person, but we know each other. We kind of know what we're working on some, and start to build those relationships. You know, that takes a little more work, but I think it can be a great way to reach people and to talk to more people. Those first three, I think, are the best places. These next four, you know, I'm throwing them out there just to try to give you more ideas. There's a bunch of public Slack channels out there, a bunch of public Discord servers out there where you can just find people to talk to. There's another guy that's got a no code founders Slack channel that's, you know, would be in a similar space to what Art's doing, no code devs. But, you know, that's another place where if you're in the no code space, you could talk to people. Deal sites like AppSumo, they've got a big, massive audience that they try to sell products to. So if you put your product on a deal site, you can find more users there and find more people to talk to there, which is another good thing. I've got 6 email and newsletters. That should probably be up at number 4. Email, I think, you know, it's going to be around forever. Okay. I don't love the medium personally, because right now I get too much email, so I don't read email that much. But if you go back to the story Art just told about this Brian Anderson Coinbase guy, he's getting these people to sign up. And so he finds like, why don't I just email these people and see what they say? Like, why are you signing up and not really doing anything? They're like, well, we need a buy button. So ask for feedback through email, and newsletters can be another way to grow an audience as well. And then the last thing I have here is meetups. Meetups aren't as big of a thing now, at least in-person meetups, because of COVID. I feel like there's been a massive hit there. But there's a bunch of virtual meetups, and that's another place where you can find some people to talk to, and find some people that you can reach out to. So anyways, I left Landing a couple months ago, and so I'm starting to build something new now. I'm starting to work on some new ideas. So it's taking me work to do these things. I'm the kind of person I would love to just go build a product in the background, but I'm having to kind of practice what I'm preaching about a lot of these ways to talk to users. And anyways, I'm excited to be doing this. I'm having fun. Anyways, I just wanted to kind of mention to you guys, like, this can be hard, it can be painful, it takes discipline, it takes energy, but it just pays off huge to do this. So cool. Moving on. So we're talking right now about this process for, we got to talk to users, and we got to build product, and then we got to repeat. We got to kind of keep repeating that, and then letting what users tell us inform what we're building, or inform how we're serving these people. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about speed of execution. You know, if you can have a feedback loop where this process repeats itself every single week, then that's much better than if you're not careful, you'll talk to users and then you'll go build product. You'll get stuck in that mode for like a month or 3 months, and then you'll come back and talk to users, and your feedback loop is too big. You want that to be tight, and then you also want it to be fast. Like, how can we do this as fast as possible? First off, let me ask you guys, who here is running your own business versus who here might be like an indie hacker where you have a full-time job, but you're also kind of trying to start something on the side? I'd be kind of curious to know kind of where some of the people that are here, where you might be. But let me tell you this. Regardless of where you're at, time is always going to be something that you want to happen faster. So learning how to execute quickly is going to be is going to be a big thing. So how do you do that? How do you move fast? Figuring out the right tools that can give you leverage is huge. When I say give you leverage, meaning, they allow you to look like you can lift 1,000 pounds when you can only really maybe lift 100 pounds. That's kind of the idea of leverage, and like a fulcrum can allow you to look way stronger than you actually are. So tools are something that can help you. If you're building websites, tools like Webflow, can help you build stuff that looks really good faster. And there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of tools around growing Twitter audiences that I think have a lot of power. But find some tools that help you do the things that you want to do faster. The other thing that I would say is systematize what you're doing. And when I say systematize, I mean basically create a process for this. Create a process for this. So, I'm going to, on social media for a couple days, or maybe one day, the time doesn't matter, but like I'm going to tell people about this feature and see what kind of feedback I'm going to get. Then I'm going to go build it, and then I'm going to try to measure, hey, does anyone care about this? So that's what I mean when I say create processes. Create really simple checklists of things that you might want to do every day, or things that you might want to do every week or every month. And then as you create these processes, what processes allow you to do? They allow you to not have to think. If you're trying to think of ideas and the best thing to do all the time, that cognitive load will slow you down. So creating really good processes that you can just repeat over and over again will help you eventually go faster. You might feel like it's making you go slower at first because you're like, oh, I got to take the time to like even think, what is the process for this? But it will really help you move faster over time. It'll help you move faster, but then it'll also help you start to hand stuff off to other people. When you have a process or a playbook and you can say, hey, I've been doing this for the last 3 months, I know it works, and then you hand that to someone else and they can go do it, and you can work on other things. That's this last thing, is getting other people involved. I know when you're on your own or you're an indie hacker, sometimes you don't have money to pay someone else. And so I get that can be a gating factor, but even with that, try to sell your vision, try to sell your idea, and I think people will, if they're really buying into it, they'll want to work with you, and they'll want to help you out. And then you can also use virtual assistants. If your process is really good, you can pay someone on Upwork or Fiverr or some of these sites to basically do your process for you. And those are some of the things about how you move fast. How do I like try to do this whole process faster? I'm going to try to pick up some speed a little bit so that we can get to the Q&A session. Find what works and do more of that. This is like common sense 101, right? Like, don't do things that don't work. But that's part of why this process is so important. Is you got to be figuring out things that actually work. This is a quote from Peter Drucker: if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And so when I say find what works and do more of that, how do you know it works? Is you have to measure it. Like, where are my leads coming from? Where are my visitors to my website coming from? That's great. What do they do once they actually get to my website? Another important question. And then which of those users actually convert? That's kind of this slide here. Like, how do you measure, track where people are coming from, track what calls to action that they're actually doing, track conversions. I think this is a little bit of it's kind of beyond the scope of this talk on how you do this, but using the tools like Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics, and maybe even advanced analytics tools like Heap or Amplitude. I don't love some of those advanced product tools. I think this is a space where there's still some opportunity to make this easier and more simple. I'm going to do some work in 2022 on how to do this. But you want to be able to measure where people are coming from. Are they coming from Twitter? Are they coming from Indie Hacker? Are they coming from your email list? Whatever. And then you want to be able to track, hey, are they actually becoming customers? If you start to do that, you'll see what works, and then you can know hey, let's spend more time on this. And eventually you'll say, hey, LinkedIn's a terrible channel for me. I'm not spending any time on this. I'm going to help you waste less time. So, all right, cool. So listen, product market fit. The biggest key, if you don't take anything else from here, is, talk to users, learn how to tell your story to users, and use that to inform your product, and then just try to repeat that as quickly as you can. And that's a big key to how you're going to be successful in business. I'm going to go and open it up to questions. If anyone has some questions, if you do, that's awesome. If you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'll also make it so that if you prefer to just do audio, you should be able to unmute yourself as of now. So you could just sort of unmute yourself and come on and ask a question. That would be a great way to do it as well. I think the other thing that, I should mention is, maybe, we can provide a way, when we send out this recording for you to get in touch with Harris or myself, so that if you have any questions, or Paul or anyone on our team, so that if you have any questions, you can ask us afterwards. There is a question here.
Cool.
What's a reasonable amount for someone to spend on an initial MVP?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I'm going to try to give you my best answer on that. I would say, let's see, reasonable amount of time. I would say 1 to 3 months, would be a reasonable amount of time. If you spend more than 3 months on it, you're going to end up in a vortex where you just build, you need to get feedback sooner. So the way Paul Graham talks about it is your product needs to have a quantum of utility. Now, when he said that, I was like, what in the world is quantum of utility mean? But that idea of quantum is just a small amount of utility. Like, it's basically the smallest amount of utility or features to make it actually useful. We haven't talked about this at all in this talk, but the way people think about this is and even this question, MVP stands for minimum viable product. So it has to be viable. If it's not viable, then you're not going to be able to sell it to anyone. So I'd say 1 to 3 months on that. A lot of it depends on what you're building, but for most people, you should be able to build something simple that you could start to try to sell people in 1 to 3 months.
Awesome. Couple other questions here. We only have a few more minutes, so try to get through these relatively quick. But again, if you have questions after this, we can get those answered. Please advise on some metrics for B2B solutions for product market fit. So how might you measure a product market fit for B2B?
Yeah, so that's good. I do think B2B sometimes is easier to sell. Because why? Because businesses, they have money that they want to use to help them make more money, or help them save money, or help them save time. So in terms of metrics, the way I think about funnels, we didn't talk about funnels very much on here, but the way I think about funnels is, you have visitors that come to your site, they become leads somehow because they give you their contact, and then eventually they become customers because they give you money. So those would be the top metrics you need to track. What's my total traffic here? And then after that, how many people actually became a lead? So if you can get 1,000 people to come to your website, and then you can get, of those 1,000 people, you can get 50 people to become a lead, meaning they gave you their email address or some contact, and then you can get maybe 10 of those people to become a customer. Using or 10 people to become a customer, then you're tracking, hey, top level thing, and then your lead conversion rate, at least using, if you start with 1,000 and then get to 50, would be around 5%. And if you get 10 of those to be customers, then your conversion rate would be 1% in terms of your customer conversion. So those metrics would be the first thing that you would want to be tracking. But then, some other things that I would recommend if you're trying to like kind of figure out what people want is that idea of just emailing people and saying, what's your problem? Like, how can I help you? That's a little harder to track. It's not really necessarily a metric. But I will say this about your emails. You should be able to you should be tracking how many, when you send 100 emails, like how many people open them, and then of those people, how many people actually clicked on the link. There's all these funnels where you kind of track, you track things all the way through, and I think emails is another good one to do that with. So
yeah, for sure.
Let me think about that too, and we can, I can work with Art to try to communicate some of the stuff out, because I do think it'd be interesting to come up with some other metrics to look at for B2B.
Yeah, we should have a couple days at least until Paul edits this video and stuff, so we can include maybe some bullet points in that when we send that out. That'd be pretty cool. I know there's a lot of people that registered for this that weren't able to attend because of like time zone differences and things like that. They sort of wait for the recording, so it'd be nice to provide them with that information as well.
Cool. Let me answer this one last question, Art, and then we'll call this thing a wrap. When is the right time to sell? The right time to sell is as early as possible. Sell early and sell often. One thing I didn't talk a lot about today in terms of how do you get sales is I think one of the big ways that you can convince people to buy your product is you need to show the value that you're giving them, and you need to give them way more value than you're asking for. Some of the products that I'm working and thinking about right now is like, I want to sell some courses about how to build software and create a community around that. Well, if someone gives me $50, I want to give them like $1,000 worth of value. So as you start to think about selling, think about your pitch and think about like what would make you buy, like, and think really hard about what would make you buy, and then use that to help craft how you sell things. Because I think in a lot of cases, the products and services that we sell it to solve our own problems. And so in some ways, we might even be a good customer. I know for me, I'm targeting markets where I know the customer because the customer would be me. And I think that will help a bunch in terms of selling, is value-based selling, return on investment-based selling. If you invest $10 here, you're going to get $100 later. Those are great pitches, and it's something I'm going to be experimenting a lot with, and think can be really powerful.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think we're just about up on time, so that was really awesome. Thank you again for everyone who showed up today. This was a new type of webinar for us. If you've attended our webinars before, I think it added a ton of value. I know I learned a lot, and it's great to hear some more things on the business side rather than just always the product and the bill side. So thank you so much, Harris, for your time. I know it's valuable, and everyone for being here. Look out for this email with the recording. And if you have any questions, it's Harris Reynolds on Twitter. Anything else, Harris, before we sign off?
No, but thanks so much to everyone for your time. Your time is valuable. And listen, if I can help anyone in any way, you can find me on Twitter. Feel free to reach out directly there. And would love to help you guys if I can in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.